cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR. It's training that can and does save lives. I'm Lisa Oligas, and this is Newsmakers. In this edition, we will discuss CPR training. We learned about classes that are being offered by the City of Joplin Health Department, the Red Cross, and training that happens for university coaches under MIAA requirements. We will even hear from a woman trained in CPR who put those skills into action, and the student whose life she saved at a local YMCA. We begin our conversation with Joplin Health Department Medical Services Coordinator and Registered Nurse, Misty Hammer, and lead CPR instructor, Tamara Waterman. Welcome to Newsmakers, ladies.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. So we often hear that the first minutes after someone has a heart attack are the most important. How critical is it for people outside a hospital setting to know CPR?
Well, most of these incidences happen in homes or in public places, and that professional help isn't always immediately available. So if you see somebody go down, you can get started on those very important compressions and help save a life. You triple their chances of survival if you can get it started as soon as possible.
I mean, minutes can make a difference?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. So the American Heart Association via heart.org reports that CPR can double, even triple survival chances for those having cardiac arrest. Only about half Americans know CPR. So why do you think people are resistant to learn CPR?
I think they're worried about like the legal ramifications, which the Good Samaritan law protects them with. They're worried about hurting someone.
You know, my mother did have CPR once, and it did crack one of her ribs. Is that typically common because you are doing compressions?
It's not really common, but it is like one of the most common things that, as a side effect, that could happen because of the force of the compressions, because you really want to get in there and really push. So
let's explain that for everyone. I mean, what exactly happens during CPR when we say cardiopulmonary resuscitation? How does that work? Why is it necessary to be pressing on the chest?
What you're doing basically is their heart stopped. So what you're doing is just perfusing that blood to go to those vital organs to help keep that person alive. So since your body can't do it at that moment, we're pushing to try to get it started again.
Tamara, I think people do fear doing it wrong. So what are some of the things that people might do incorrectly that these classes can help fix or, help make sure they do it correctly?
So I think one of the most common things is just knowing when to do CPR, and our class does go over those steps to determine if someone needs CPR or not. Another big one is just knowing hand placement. So you do have to place those hands in the center of the chest, on the lower half of the breastbone. And when it comes to compressions, depth and rate are both really important. So you do have to push down at least 2 inches with the rate of 100 to 120 beats per minute. And we have mannequins with feedback devices, and they will help with both of those, so you'll get lots of practice.
I know I've talked to people who have done CPR, and we went to a class and they say really that you mentioned compressions, making sure you get that depth. So you said the mannequin can kind of tell you that. Are people hesitant to push too hard or not realize how much strength it takes to get down 2 inches?
That's one of the most common things. People are afraid to hurt them. They don't realize you do have to push down with a lot of force. You do have to go down 2 inches to pump the heart. So it is very important.
Yeah. And then it's 100 beats per minute. So I know a lot of times you guys instruct with a song. Is there anything people should get playing in their mind to kind of keep that rhythm?
Well, Staying Alive, that's always a good one.
That's been a good one, yeah.
American Heart Association, on their website, they do have a list of a bunch of songs. I do have several here. Let's see. Jolene by Dolly Parton.
Wow.
Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice. Grenade by Bruno Mars. Just a Girl by No Doubt. So there's several.
You have lots of options then.
Yeah.
Okay. So the health department will be rotating several different classes. Let's describe each one of them and tell us how they are different. Now, one is called Friends and Family. So what is that about?
It teaches those life-saving skills. Really the only difference between the Friends and Family and the Heart Saver class is that you get a certification with the Heart Saver class. you learn the same kind of things in the friends and family class as you do the one that you get certified for, but it just is getting that knowledge out there.
Right. So when you teach a class, are we usually all things included when it comes to adults and children, or do you have to take a separate class for like
No, we
infant
do
children?
adults and children and infants actually in all of our classes.
Yes.
So.
Yep.
And then let's talk about the next class. So you have Heart Saver. That's a certification if somebody maybe needs to be certified for a job that they work at.
It's a 2-year certification. We have a lot of people like daycares and stuff like that. They have that regulatory thing that they need. We do it for that, and then if they're wanting to, if they work in a hospital or something like that, and they need to get recertified or renew that would be the BLS checkoff, which we do the second part of that, which is the skills checkoff. They do the first part online through the American Heart Association.
So pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
So how often are you offering these classes?
Monthly we have classes. Usually the only month that we kind of defer is August because we're so busy with back to school vaccinations. But we usually offer at least one class per month. So
And folks can find that schedule pretty much online?
if they go to joplinmo.org and go to the Parks and Recreation site, it's not the health department, but it's the Parks and Recreation site. They have a registration site. You go under special events or adult programs, click on that, and then it'll say American Heart Association, and then they'll have all the classes we have.
Is there a certain age that's recommended for learning CPR, or can pretty much anyone learn?
12 and up is
Okay.
who we teach the classes to. The BLS checkoff is 16 and up, but the other two are 12 and up.
Okay. Thank you both for sharing so much information, and we'll put up the class times for folks in our community. Appreciate your being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will talk to the American Red Cross about its classes and the basic how-to of performing CPR. First, check out training for MSSU coaches and why CPR is a must in athletics.
Start your compressions.
Missouri Southern State University coaching staff ensure they are armed with the best defense on the courts and fields, the life-saving knowledge of CPR.
Rest, make sure you're pinching the nose shut.
For volleyball coach Josh Moore, it's a course that does double duty.
Number one, we're required by the NCAA to be certified, but number two, that peace of mind of knowing if something bad does happen to one of my athletes or a spectator, we're all prepared and we can make sure that we can take care of them to the best of our ability.
The class is led by Amanda Wolf, who guides them through compressions and rescue breaths,
Give me 2 breaths. Good.
and the use of AED machines.
Plug-in pads connector, analyzing heart rate. Shot connector. Deliver shot now. Clear, ready.
Coaches get recertified every 2 years. All appreciate the refresher course training.
Having someone like Amanda teaching it or refreshing, gives me that confidence that I could, utilize it if called upon.
I always kind of remember a few different things every time I take it, right? So every 2 years when we re-up our certification, it's nice to pick up a thing or two.
There's a lot to be said for repetition. I mean, in the course, it's why the football team's practicing right now. They're doing the same things over and over just to get repetition so that when you have to use it, you don't have to think about doing it. It just kind of takes over and you do it without even having to think about it.
Wolf has been called upon twice to give CPR with different outcomes in each case. One positive and one not.
I remember that day I went and sat in my office for an hour and just was by myself because coming down off of the adrenaline, it was a lot. And having known the person at that point in time was another thing. It wasn't like it was some random person off the street where there wasn't any kind of connection or anything. But the part that maybe helped a little bit was I knew that the person had some underlying health things. So it wasn't entirely a surprise that we were going to have to use it at some point in time. You just hope that you never had to.
CPR class members team up to learn and practice the Heimlich maneuver and review how to dislodge something from a choking child. And then how to do infant CPR.
Whatever technique you want. Make sure your forearm's on your leg whenever you do this.
Apply pads to patient's bare chest. Analyzing heart rhythm. Deliver shot now. Press the orange button now.
Coaches may work with young, strong athletes, but Wolf says heart problems can come to light at any age.
We've had a student athlete die of a heart condition. Thankfully, it was outside of their practicing game. It was something else that they were doing. But yeah, it's possible for young athletes to be able to have medical conditions that either they know about or don't know about that put them in a situation that this would have to be used.
We've got to be ready for the unexpected, right? Obviously, in an ideal world, nothing bad happens and we never have to use it. But we want to make sure that we're there for our athletes, we're there for students, we're there for anybody who's on campus that may need help.
For KGCS, I'm Jonathan Case.
Welcome back to Newsmakers, where we are bringing focus to cardiopulmonary resuscitation, or CPR. Even with some basic training, remembering the CPR steps and administering them correctly can be a challenge. What's the right number of compressions? How often do you give breaths? We're going to find out. Joining our conversation with answers is Jackie Kennedy with the American Red Cross. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So October is a special month when it comes to cardiac arrest, right?
It is. It's Sudden Cardiac Arrest Awareness Month. So it was perfect timing.
Yeah. So why is training so important for the Red Cross? Why is this part of the Red Cross mission?
Well, I don't know if you know what the Red Cross mission is, but it's to prevent and alleviate human suffering. So being trained in how to respond to an everyday emergency with skills like CPR it's what we do. And our training is designed to help Americans be able to respond to everyday disasters or emergencies and potentially save a life.
You bet. So before we talk about your available classes, let's talk about the CPR steps that may escape us when emergency strikes. Before someone starts CPR, what do they do first?
So
they don't just jump in.
Yeah, so the very first step, and I think probably everybody knows this, but we kind of made it really simple. It's check, call, and care. So the very first thing you want to do when you come upon an emergency, no matter what it is, if you probably don't even know, is check the area, make sure that it's safe to render aid. There could be a down power line, it could be, anything. So that's the very first step that you want to do. Then it's check, call, care.
So when you say call, training often includes asking others to help you. So if you're alone, what are you telling everybody else to do if there's a crowd?
Exactly. And to keep your wits about you is the number one thing. And I know that's easier said when you're not actually in the situation at the time. But the very first thing you do, like I said, is check. And then, you need the help of other people. So if you do have people around you, be assertive and, so you're going to want to call. So you tell someone and hopefully you know the names and just call them by name. You call, you do this, you find an AED and call their name. If you don't know their name, then pick out something. Hey, you in the red shirt, you in the blue shirt, you do this, and make sure they respond back to you because, situations like that can be chaotic.
You bet. And somebody needs to call 911 because then professional help will be on the way.
Exactly.
So what is the current number of compressions recommended? Because I've taken CPR and sometimes they seem to change.
It does. And that's the nice thing about our training. We keep up to date with the science. So when you log into the website, you will be, you get the latest and the greatest on the training. But right now it's between, and we don't actually recommend a number, but it's between 100 to 120 per minute. And usually you can do it to a song. I think everybody's heard the Bee Gees song, Staying Alive.
Yes, and then somebody told me at a training I was at recently that Pink Pony Club was...
Is that the new one?
It's a popular song,
Yeah.
So they said it has similar beat.
You know the words.
Yeah, as long as you know the rhythm.
And I think more importantly is what they say is the depth of the compression. So you need to go about 2 inches to really make sure that you're circulating the blood and oxygenating the organs.
So one of the things people will learn if they look for training is that there is hands-only CPR and not hands-only CPR. So we all, you see people do it on TV, they give breaths. What is the difference between the two?
Right, and so I think we kind of had a discussion about this, but since COVID, some people are a little bit more hesitant to, put their mouth on other people's mouth. And so we actually offer a class that's hands-only CPR that just teaches you the compressions. And then there's also the full CPR, which shows you how to do the rescue breaths. And there are actually devices now that you can carry with you that actually protect you from the other person so that if you're ever in a situation like that, when you're probably maybe a first responder or something.
And you can still give them the life-giving breath. And so usually it's 2 breaths to the multiple compressions, correct? So if you do rescue breaths, how often should it be? And then why is it important that businesses make sure to have employees trained on this?
So we really recommend that everybody get trained in CPR because you never know when you're in situations that 70% of all cardiac arrests happen in home. So it's important to have that when you walk into something like that. For businesses, it's a little different. There's a lot of requirements that are levied by OSHA. So you could be in a daycare where it may require you to take infant, And so it's important for businesses to be aware of what their business is and what OSHA requires as far as that goes. And then if you are a business, the one thing that the Red Cross will do, they can either come out and teach your employees and give them the certification, or you can designate somebody from your company that can go out and get certified as a Red Cross trainer to be able to do recurring Red Cross trainings at your facility.
Which is very helpful because then, people changing staff.
It is, and it's not even just for employers. If you had a large group of people, such as a college or, a classroom environment, you can do that. A Girl Scout troop, anybody.
Yeah. So I noticed some online classes. Do those incorporate actual practice? How can someone find a class that they want to learn in person? Because there are online ways to get
So there are. We actually have an opportunity here in our local area, Joplin, coming up on October 22nd. It's at the Joplin Chamber of Commerce, and the way that you find out about upcoming in-person opportunities is to go to redcross.org. Very easy. Did it myself. It's on the very front page, about 3 down, and you sign into training, put in your zip code. It tells you every class that's coming up. But it's really nice because if you're wanting to do a hands-only CPR training, they do offer online, and they do offer hybrid classes where you can do the online portion and then you just, go and get your certification in front of an instructor. Or some people just want to be in person, and so you can sign up for completely in-person classes.
Excellent. So there are differences in doing CPR on a baby or child. So are those taught in all the classes? Is that training important for specific occupations, or should everyone really kind of know?
So there are different types of training. Now you can take the adults only CPR, and you can take adults and children and infants CPR, or you can just take the children and infants CPR.
Okay.
So there's different trainings, and you just have to go in and log in and see what either is required or what you're looking for.
Do you guys also go into schools, and are students receptive to learning CPR?
They are. I actually worked with a classroom over in Sarcoxy. They did a summer school offering for their kids, and they brought in an instructor and taught them hands-only CPR. And there's a lot of states that actually have that as a graduation requirement, that they know CPR to be able to graduate.
Which would be a great requirement.
Yes.
Preparing them for everything. All right, so one more time, where's the website to go register for classes?
It's redcross.org, but we also have a first aid app, and it's nice to have it on your phone because it not only does it kind of walk you through the steps when you may be in a panic mode, but it will also link you to 911 and can tell you where their nearest hospital is at.
And do most classes teach you how to use the AED machine?
So there is a specific class for that, and the adult first aid and AED combined class. And, a lot of people get a little weirded out when they think of AED in the old school, when you watch the old movies and But I mean, honestly, technology today is great. In fact, the AEDs today practically do the work for you. Give you step-by-step instructions, tell you if they need AED, if they don't need AED. So it's kind of a neat thing.
A great tool.
Yep.
Yes. All right. Well, learning CPR is very important if you don't have that AED tool. Jackie Kennedy, thanks for sharing all this information.
Thank you.
We're going to take another break, and when we come back, a woman who put her CPR training to the test. We're back, and our focus on CPR training brings us to implementation. What does it take to step up and use CPR training to save a life? We find out from a woman who did, and also hear from the man she saved. Joining our conversation now is Susan Haley, currently working at Shine and a former employee of the Joplin Family YMCA, and KCU student Braden Costin. Both of you, thanks for being here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is kind of a little reunion for you guys, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Good to see each other, I guess.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would see each other a little bit.
Susan, you and I had actually taken the CPR training at the same time. How long after getting that training did you actually have to put it to use?
It was literally a year and 5 days later.
Wow. Were you scared?
I don't know if scared is a correct term. Whenever I had looked at the clock, it was 3:59, 4 o'clock p.m.
a kid or young man had came to the desk, said he needed help. His friend was down. I said, the first thing that ran through my mind was not fear, but was, what do I need to do? And I remember in our training, the number one thing I took from our training, CPR that we had at the Y, was always grab the AED machine. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it in time. And so the first thing I did was grab the AED machine, and I just ran to the basketball courts.
So Braden, what memories do you have of what happened? You were playing basketball, is that right?
Yeah, so I remember almost nothing. It was a completely normal day for me. I went to school, had some exams, and then after went with some classmates to go play basketball, and then I woke up in the hospital. And so I don't really remember much at all.
All right, so then Susan, fill us in the gaps here. What did you have to do when you went to the gym, he was down, you found him? What happened when you responded then?
So I ran there, I get to him, he's got a couple of friends around. One is down on the ground with him by his head. And I jump in there. He was so close to the bleachers when he went down that there was no room to get a buddy. Generally, when you take CPR classes, you learn that you want to have a buddy system and take turns from side to side on either side of the patient or individual. I was not able to do that. He was so close to the bleachers. So the friend and I were there talking, and I immediately knew that he needed the AED machine on him. The friend had been doing some compressions before I got there. I started to do more compressions, and then we opened the AED machine, applied all the stickers to him, the paddles, and immediately turned it on. Started doing compressions and following the instructions of the AED machine.
Does the AED, I mean, was any of it instinctual when you did that? I mean, how much was trying to recall, okay, I learned this in class, this is what you're supposed to do?
My first take on the AED machine was, this does not look like the one that I was trained on. And it looked different, and it kind of scared me for just a moment. But when I turned it on, it was doing all the prompts that I remember hearing from the class. So it kind of put me at ease, knowing that, okay, it's working the same way the other one does. It may not look like the same one, but it works the same way. So it did prompt it. It would tell me whenever I was doing compressions on him, I'm doing the compressions and the AED machine tells me to apply more pressure. It kind of frustrated me. I might have yelled at the AED machine saying I am applying pressure, but it worked really well to let me know what I needed to do, when I needed to stand back and say clear everybody. And it did take 2 rounds of shocks to get Braden's heart beating the correct way.
Wow, that's amazing. So what went through your mind when you're actually giving the CPR? Were you thinking, I've got to save this kid? I mean, what are you thinking?
I am thinking that because I was watching the color of his face. The color in his face was going away. He was turning gray. I was counting in my head. I don't think I was counting out loud. I thought I was, but I also was yelling at him. And we were all yelling, breathe, Braden, come back, Braden. And I think with each compression, I was kind of giving him a command of breathe. And we all were doing that. And so it was kind of just a group effort in that moment of just me doing the actions, but all of us, just vying for him to breathe.
Are the verbal instructions from the AED machine helpful? You said it did put you a little bit at ease. I mean, for those who might be fearful of learning or doing CPR, having that AED machine does take some of that fear away?
It does, because it feels like you have a coach right there beside you, telling you, apply more pressure, do the compressions, stand back, waiting for a charge, and then, it did everything that it needed to do. In this case, Braden found out that it wasn't as much of he needed all of the CPR, but he really needed the AED machine.
So Braden, I was going to ask you, what did you find out was wrong with your heart, or what happened?
Yeah, so they did a bunch of tests. They did not find any structural abnormalities, no blocked coronary arteries. Genetic testing came back negative. So they aren't really sure. They're just calling it idiopathic ventricular tachycardia. So meaning they don't know why it happened. And it was just kind of a crazy, spontaneous event.
So then do you have to have follow-up? Do you have a defibrillator or anything?
Yep, so I got a defibrillator implanted just in case anything else does happen, and I just do yearly follow-ups. But so far, everything's essentially back to normal.
So again, now, what do you think about the fact that she stepped in? I mean, what does this mean to you that Susan was there?
Absolutely. So my dad's a first responder, so I grew up hearing stories like this all the time, and it's definitely very surreal being on the other side of it. And me and my family, we could not be more grateful. So thank you again, Susan. If you hadn't acted so quickly, things definitely could have turned out very differently.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So how does it feel to say, I saved somebody?
I have a hard time accepting the credit. I do honestly give all credit to God first for knowing who needed to be where, and that it happened on my watch when he knew that I would grab that AED machine. Maybe somebody else might not have thought about that. They might have just hurried and ran and started compressions and might have had to wait for it. So I think that that it happened the way it did happen. But it is very surreal. I don't see myself as a hero. I don't see myself as anything different. I think anybody would do what they need to do.
I think
but
that's
I'm
part
thankful.
of the message is telling other people that the more people who know this, anybody can do it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm
should do
very
it.
thankful that I did have the knowledge, and I feel very prepared. I mean, I know that my certificate will be expiring next year, and I do plan to renew it and keep that updated every 2 years.
So there is a unique aspect to her story in that your own daughter also used CPR to save someone at the Y. Tell us
Yes.
briefly about that.
Yep, almost 9 years to the date also. My daughter worked at the front desk at the Y, doing the same job that I did. It was a Friday night also. It was a Friday afternoon with Braden, and she was not supposed to be at work that day. She was supposed to be on vacation with us, and she declined. She picked up a shift and was working, and a gentleman came in. He was a U.S. veteran, and he had came in to exercise upstairs. Friday evening around 7:30, very few people were at the Y, and he went down upstairs when he was on the track. And somebody came down, yelled for that they needed an ambulance call, they needed help, and my daughter told her, "You stay here, I'm the help." And she grabbed the AED machine and she ran upstairs. And she had to do full CPR and the AED with him with rescue breaths, and she was able to get him back as well.
Well, amazing that you and your daughter both were willing to answer that call. Braden, so glad you were able to join us and tell us about your experience, and so thankful that the two of you had this experience together.
Yes,
Yeah,
thankful.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thankful we're on this side talking about it.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, well, thank you so much. That wraps up this edition of Newsmakers. Consider learning CPR and taking advantage of classes available in the community. You could save a life. Thanks to our guests, and thank you for watching Newsmakers.